but we have a story, and I have the documents. My mother's father was a Lubavitcher Rebbe in Baltimore, and he got an invitation to the Rebbe's Chasana. There was a landsman with Chassid Fagin. They came from the same town in Russia, and they arranged, and my Zayda had Kesher with the Friedricher Rebbe, so he got an invitation to the Rebbe's Chasana. And he told me the story. So my Zayda says, I'm not about to go to Poland for the Chasana.
He's in America?
He was in America, yeah, in Baltimore. So he says, so why are you sending me an invitation? When you get an invitation, if you're not going to go, you should send a present. Okay? So he said, how much of a present can I send already? I mean, my Zayda was a shaykhid. He said, I got a better idea. He came to the shul, the board of the shul, and he crossed out his name on the invitation, and he wrote the shul, and he came to the board and he said the invitation was to the shul, so you should send a better check to the chasna. Okay. The Mazeh was very practical. You got an invitation, you should send a present, and so I have that invitation with my Zayda's name with a line through it, and we wrote in the name of the shul. To be able to do that. You have in the Igris a couple of letters to my Zayda. One is one letter that it seems my Zayda sent a donation to the Friedricher Rebbe, and the bank went bankrupt. So they wanted proof from my Zayda that he sent the money, so they could try and collect the money from the bank. So there's one or two letters in the Igris there. There's also a famous story that we have that there were five Lubavitcher shuls in downtown Baltimore from 100 years ago. It's all gone. It's a museum. Okay. In fact, my Zayda was the Rav of that shul, and my uncle came one time to see the shul, see the museum, and he told him, by the way, I just want to let you know that in that little corner there's a mikveh. He said, they didn't know that. He said, yeah, I used to daven here. So he showed them where it is, and that the museum should include the mikveh there, not just there. Okay. So when the shuls closed, there was a certain amount of money that they sold the buildings, and it was a question of what to do with the money. So my Zayda was the one that pretty much had the daya. So he was the last one, the last member of the board that was still alive. And so there's there was a Lubavitcher Shul, there was a Bostonian Shul that they offered. We'll open it in the suburbs, and we'll call it the same name. We'll call it Nuschari if you want, whatever. Just give us the money. There was one shul there that was a question about the microphone. That was a big deal in those days. And the Rebbe, so he wrote to the Rebbe. The Rebbe wrote a very sharp letter saying that microphones are osir, and you should not give them any money to be able to open a shul with a microphone. It reminds me a story my father told me about a yechidus. That he once went to the Shabbos. Yeah.
No, זה לא היה ברור לכולם. There were some...
There were days that there was a...
שזה מותר, היו כאלה שאומרים שזה מותר. פעם. מיקרופון.
יש סיפור עם הרבי הרייס. הרבי הרייס שהיה שם... הרבי הרשע והיה מתפלל מחר.
אוקיי, זה סיפור סודי. לא פרסם שמותר לעשות את זה.
הרבי לא אמר מותר, הרבי שלל מכמה טעמים. ורצו ללמוד מזה. קודם כל הרבי אמר שהרבי הרשע בכלל לא ידע שאומרים אותו.
כן. But here, because there was a swar at one point, Rabbi Soloveitchik was not there. Later, there was a swar at one point. So he went. There was a famous Rav in Boston, Rabbi Zuber, Shral Zuber, who was in Lubavitch, and he was murdered in 1951 or so. Huh? Yeah. He was going there, and he was killed by Goyim in Boston. It was a big shock, you know. Yeah, not in Russia. He came to he was a chief rav in Sweden during the war. He wrote Hasanas and Chuvas about Agunis. Zayn Klach are publishing them now. And Klach or Rein Klach about these things. But Bapel, he was in Boston and he was involved in yeshiva. I'll even tell you something funny. There was a shliach, Rabbi David Edelman, in Springfield,
Massachusetts.
Yeah. We were very close.
Was a shliach of the Friedrich Rebbe.
Yeah. And he was from Baltimore. He was very close with my Zayda also. And so he told, so he and my father and he went into the Rebbe discussed about the microphones. And the Rebbe said to them, the Rebbe Soloveitchik may know his halacha, but he doesn't know his physics. Okay? And that's why the Rebbe disagreed with him, that even if he wants to be out there on the microphone, the Rebbe said, that's the way I heard the story. But it was that. But again, there was a feeling. You can always go to the Rebbe. That was the whole thing. Okay. What do I? But I want to make sure do one thing. And it's very important before I finish. And that is the purpose of this whole thing is not Asfus. It's not saying, look what we lost. That's not the purpose of this conversation. The Rebbe would never allow something like that. Okay? First of all, it says in Yom Yom that everything has to lead to Aveda. Everything has to lead to something positive. You can't not get stuck in what was. In Yeshiva, they used to tell us, when you talk about what is Amalek Zeiten is Lashon Amalek. In Yiddish, Amalek means what was. No, that's nothing good. Nothing positive. We have to think this. One thing that I was thinking is, look, when you realize, that's how I started off this conversation. When we realize what we had and what we lost, now we have to see what we'll be able to look forward to make up for this. How is the Eivishter going to do it? Give us to get the Eivishter made in Roimi, the whole Kel from Roimi. The fox goes out of the base of Mikdash. Why? Because something more positive, something there, twice the it's because something much more positive is coming out of it. So as we realize what it was, and therefore the Eivishter's kavana is to bring the gula, and therefore if he made a move like this is somehow or other in the plan. Whether we understand it, or at least whether I understand it or not, is irrelevant. But I can't lose sight of where it's going. It's going to the Gula. Why did it have to go take this detour? I don't know. I don't have to know. It's not for me to be able to translate, to explain why the Eivishter had to do it this way. I have no idea. There's a lot, just like it's a long list of things that why the Eivishter did, which I don't understand. But somehow the Yamuna is that without this, it couldn't happen. If it could have happened without it, the Eivishter wouldn't have done it. But somehow or other, this goes with the Holocaust, all the good Zachen. That's why did the Eivishter do it? That somehow or other, in order to get to the goal, all of these things have to be there. And it's not for us to necessarily to understand it, to try to understand that. The Friedrich Rebbe said it very clearly about the Holocaust. We don't have to answer the Eivishter, but we do have to not lose our Emunah. We have to Emunah that this is the Eivishter created the world, and he had a goal, and the goal was not to break even.
He's still creating it.
Yes, of course, every moment. Okay, and it's not to break even, meaning a businessman doesn't go into a chef to come out even. The Eivishter created the world perfect, and he wanted to make it. There should be better than that. How can it be better than perfect? So therefore, because before that it was only or yosher, everything was good. Here the Eivishter wanted that even Ra, even the Nachash and everything else should also get to a point where or a light that comes from the dark, it's all good Zachen. Because so this is all part of that confusion. But it's not. But we can't allow it to detour ourselves from the goal. Because the goal is Hashem created the world for a kavanah, and the kavanah is to bring the gula, and it should be Melech Holaras Kavodai, and even the Ra should also understand that. And we should keep working in that direction, right? And I think that's what Mitzvah is about. To overcome the Ra, that the world should be able to be what it's supposed to be.
Amen.
Ashreinu mator chalkeinu, Ashreinu mator chalkeinu.
Thank you. Very. That's why I started. Rabbi Kastel. That's why I started Ashreinu.
I'm not going to finish it. L'chaim, danke, du bist stark.
Even the Sarah Tabochim rains are good. Even the Sarah Tabochim rains are good. They've sent more food.
Tell you a little bit about the Gisha. They don't know what it is.
I didn't introduce Rabbi Kastel because I assume you know who is Rabbi Kastel. I want to tell you, I just want to tell you that we are so fortunate to have a shliach of the Rebbe for 55 years at least in New York, and he did the real shlichus by taking Yidden from universities and Pashas from the street and bring them to the Rebbe, and many Baalei Teshuvos came, and we are very, very thankful to you, Rabbi Kastel, to be with us. Thank you so much. May Hashem yarich yarim ha-mamlachto and so we matzlech on shlichus bepel mamesh like before, even better before. und du verratst in alle Unionen begashmis beruchnis.
I thought the real shlichus was the fact that he was able to work with Dori Raskin and Mula Butman together. That was the real shlichus. Rabbi Yoel used to say, that how does he know that the Rebbe is the Nimra and noise? That you could look at him and Meir Harlik together in the Fabrengen, I mean the Rebbe is saving color.
Papa, 7 minutes.
No?
7
But
minutes.
just some of the memories. The Rebbe was very involved in Pagisha. The whole concept of Pagisha was the Rebbe's was well, Yaakov Hanukkah came to the Rebbe with an idea, and the Rebbe went with it. The idea we should have a program for students for Shabbos. It was unheard of.
Kisha, can you explain us what is Kisha?
Okay. Pagisha is where we invite students to come for a Shabbat here in Crown Heights. We have speakers, we have the studot, we have the Fabrengens, the whole package, and we have some excellent speakers over the years. So we have make Fabrengens all night. But Dr. Block was a professor.
I was about to ask about him. He's so famous about this Kisha.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Block was a brilliant professor. Huh? He's a brilliant professor. No. He was originally from Nashville, Tennessee. And Zalman Posner was makar of him when he was a bocher from the same college. And he came to Boston, he went to Harvard. And while he was in Harvard, he kept on asking the Rebbe that he wanted to drop out of college and go and sit and learn, and the Rebbe said, B'shum Leif no. The Rebbe insisted he should get a degree in philosophy, in Socrates. Yeah, that was his big thing, Socrates.
Socrates?
Yeah.
You know about it?
No. What is Socrates?
Socrates is a famous philosopher,
Yep.
Greek philosopher. Okay? Nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. And he was an expert on that. And he would make
I think the
Fabrengens.
Rambam mentioning him in Moyer Nevuchim.
And he was, he would make Fabrengens. And Moshe Shabbos, the Fabrengens sometimes would go a whole night. And he'd say L'chaim, and then we put him onto the plane, Shikir, hey, send him back to Canada. He was living in London, Ontario, as a professor.
And many Balashuvas came up.
Yes. When he was in Harvard, he used to sleep in yeshiva. It was in our yeshiva, it was in Boston. He needed a place to stay. And he made a Mesiba Shabbos in those days. That was one of the things that Rebbe wanted, Shabbos afternoon. And I was one of the kids in his Mesiba Shabbos, okay, while he was there. And later he got married in the famous story where we got married. I don't know how people remember that. He married Sklar. His father-in-law was from Russia, from Lubavitch. And
The old Sklar here in the neighborhood?
yeah.
I got run over by a car or something?
Yeah.
Elinochem.
Yeah.
Okay, Elinochem, there's a shul after named after him.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a shver.
His son is still alive in Florida.
Yeah, Moshe. So Elinochem, when had a brilliant daughter, and she was interested in this brilliant student. In those days, you didn't marry Bali Tshuva. You needed yichud. You know, who knows what the Taras of Shpocha, who knows what's going on, you wouldn't marry them. And the Rebbe was encouraging it.
תגידו שמה? הוא אומר שגם היום זה ככה.
Loved after Paul. Okay, so the Rebbe was very much pushing it. And the famous story with the Yechidus, that the Chosn Kala went in, and the Rebbe was the one that said yes, and the father said, B'shum finished. And the father ran out of the Yechidus. And the father Rebbe called him back in. And the whole thing is, no, my daughter will not do this. Okay, and then I got married and have Einachlach and Shluchim, and they're in Texas and a lot of different places. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah.
He was holding himself so holy, the father.
No, it wasn't. It was unheard of. It was unheard of. The Bucket married Stillman. It was also unheard of. That he married a Baal
Even
Tshuva.
between Ashkenazim, no Sephardim?
No Sephardim, no Sephardim. This is like a Baal Tshuva.
I thought it's only against Sephardim, חשבתי שזה רק נגד ספרדים, האפליות האלה, לא?
The Bucket it was a Rav in East London. His daughter married Stillman, married a Baal Tshuva. A Boston boy, my classmate.
Which one? Spillman?
Stillman, Rachmiel Stillman from Los Angeles. Okay, so it was unheard of. In those days, it wasn't done. Okay, and in fact,
אתה בורח מיחידות בגלל טהרת המשפחה, כאילו אתה מבין יותר מהרבן? לא אתה, אני כאילו, זה כבוד, זה לא קשור לטהרת המשפחה.
in fact,
He says טהרת המשפחה, but it's not really טהרת המשפחה, because if the Rebbe says yes, so what? You understand better than the Rebbe what is
no,
טהרת המשפחה?
no, being like this. It's not nothing. It's not. We're not making it away. The Indian, the importance in Seven Tanya and everything else, the importance of Taras Mishpacha.
Okay.
No question is that. However, the question is that likuva to be able to get married? Okay, that's what we're talking about.
Many people not they don't have to worry about it as long as the boy or the girl is good, you know,
Okay, yeah, I'm saying, but in those days, it was unheard of. So today,
I know people who wrote in knowing for a fact that there was no
I understand that.
There is the first decade of the Rebbe, but there has there in Lach Shtekach.
Okay, but this was the door before. Okay, the door before where they were machshiv instead, and it was unheard of. In fact, I'll tell you, it's an interesting thing. Nobody knows this. I'll tell you, it's a secret. No one knows. It was in the early days of Hadar Torah. Hadar Torah nowadays was in the Kotel upstairs, right next door to 770. With the Lubavitcher Shul now. It was before they opened Hadar Torah. Later, Rabbi Jacobson moved it away. But originally, it started off in the Kotel in 770. The Lubavitcher Shul. You remember? You were there then? Before your time. Okay. But I remember there was a conversation between two of the early Talmidim of Hadar Torah. The first ones. And this conversation went like this. Okay? They're being makar of us. Very nice. Will we ever be truly accepted? Will they ever allow us to marry their daughters? Okay? The makar of us, yes, but we'll always be second rate. This is a conversation between two Bali Tshuva. Neither of them are alive anymore. I think one was one was Ephraim Koren, and I think the other one was he was in Baltimore. Yeah, I remember he was in Baltimore. Reisman, maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, so anyway, so there was this discussion. So one's saying, no, they'll never accept us. They're proud of us, and they're nice, but we'll never be able to be considered. We'll never be accepted. The other one said, I don't know if I want to be accepted. Why? He says, we work for our Yiddishkeit. We had Mesiras Nefesh. We knew what the else world is, and we went away from it, and it came to them. Their daughters don't know what that is. They grew up with it, and they've never had any muhammad for Yiddishkeit. So I don't know if I want to marry one of them. Okay, this is the conversation going on.
Who said it?
The two have it between themselves.
Names?
Yeah.
של הדר התורה. קורן אחד ו...
One thing was Koren, the other one would have been Greisman, maybe.
Wow.
So it ended up, the one who didn't care married a frum girl, and the other one who did care married a Malastuba. Okay, and they have children, and 8 o'clock, and they're not here anymore, but their families are Chashuv people. But this was the whole atmosphere. The Rebbe was the one who broke it through. The Rebbe was the one who encouraged it, and he said, and therefore, I think that this was a crucial point in the Baal Tshuva movement, where they can feel that they're equal, that they're just as good as us, and in many cases they're better than us. A lot of them are better than us. They had Mesiras Nefesh for Yiddishkeit. We never did. They gave up something for their Yiddishkeit. Right? That argument was there. So I'm just trying to say that, the Rebbe was the one who saw the whole idea and encouraged it to such a degree. The Rebbe was on the Pagishas, the Rebbe was involved in every prat. The Rebbe would look over the schedule. One time we tried to outsmart the Rebbe. No, not really. But the thing like this, we wanted to bring students to the bring. For first to come for davening. We wanted to hold seats for them. They shouldn't have to stand and get pushed and shoved. It's not a good experience. The 770. So what did we do? We decided one time to tell them to come early. We tell the Borchim, we put on the schedule, Shachar is 10 o'clock. We knew Shachar is at 10:30, so if they come half an hour earlier, we'll get them seats. Otherwise, it won't work. The Rebbe wrote a sharp answer. Kama v'kama shonim shashaz avorchim mispalim 10:30. No, it's not that, we didn't forget. We did not. We had a svara that let them come earlier, and the Rebbe B'Shumaifen didn't want to hear it. Because why? The Rebbe felt that the Begisha, he has to be there. He has to keep the schedule. So if it's right 10 o'clock, then the Rebbe has to come 10 o'clock. Okay? So therefore, you have to make sure we don't write that. There were other things like that. There was another thing that was, I still get calls from Rabbanim from all over the country, all over the world asking me a question. There was a question of the Begisha that we had in June time. That it starts so late. Till it's a long day. So you have a program. The program wouldn't start until 12 o'clock at night. You can't do a program at 12 o'clock at night. So I went to Zalman Shimon Dworkin and I asked him, I have a problem. What do I do? We can't have a program because when is here? You want in that time of the year? Friday night. 8:30. Then you daven 9:30. And now you're going to go home. You go to home, make kiddush. It's not going to start until 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then you have to give a meal. So it's 12 o'clock at night. It's not going to work. So I went to Zalman Shimon and I asked him, what do I do? Zalman Shimon said, I'll be din, there's no shaila. You can Kabbalah Shabbos early. I said, oh, great idea. It was his idea. I just came with a problem. I didn't come up with a solution. I'm not telling him what to do. So we wrote into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said no. The Rebbe said, that's not what we do here. Okay? Now, I get calls from all over the world. Does this mean that the Rebbe said that the Shittas Chabad? I said, look, I don't think the Rebbe was saying Shittas Chabad. If he wants to Shittas Chabad, he doesn't tell it to me.